Okay, guys, so today we are starting the last unit of the first semester. So we are starting on our final narrative. And as I previewed at the very beginning of this quarter, this is the last thing we are doing for our quarter-long writing project. So this is a multimedia project, and we're writing a narrative about someone who was affected by the issue that you have chosen to write about for the whole quarter. All right, so over the next 2 days, you guys are going to work on summarizing a significant event in another person's life, and we're going to use a format that's called microfiction. All right, here's what the next 2 weeks look like. This week, you're going to dissect the step 3 writing prompt. That's for the narrative. You're going to research and brainstorm ideas for the narratives. We're going to review all the elements of narrative so you remember what good writers use in order to tell a story. You're going to create an outline for your narrative. And then next week, remember, we only have school Tuesday through Thursday of next week. We have off on Monday and we have off on Friday. So next week, you'll have 3 days to write your narrative. Well, I say 3 days, but really you will actually only have one short class period and one block class period. That's it. And keep in mind, these are multimedia, so they might be project-based. You might need to do some work outside of class if you feel compelled to put yours in a format that requires more than just those time periods. Okay, so here's what you're doing today. You should have a handout. On the front of your handout, you're going to start by reading and dissecting the prompt. So there's the prompt. We often care more about an issue when there's a story to which we can relate. Identify a person or group of people who are affected by the issue you've been researching. Conduct research on a time when this social issue affected a particular person or group of people, and write a 1 to 2 page narrative that tells the story. Your narrative must be inspired by a true story. All right. You are going to take the time now to go ahead and identify all of the verbs and what you're supposed to be doing. So I will start you off. Our very first verb is identify. You fill out the second column, and you're going to do that for the entire prompt. Once you are finished with that, you are starting your research, and this is all happening again on your handout. This is still on the front of the handout. The directions for Part 1 research say, using your Chromebooks, conduct research on an individual who has been affected by the social issue you've been writing about throughout this quarter. Use the space below to identify the name of the person and as many details as you can find about their story. Now, if you know someone personally who's affected by this issue, then you can write about them instead, but you will still need to do some research to make sure that you get as many details from that person as possible. All right, very quickly, I am going to walk you through an example of how to go about conducting this research. So the following slides provide an example of how to use Google to find specific people who have been affected by the issue you wrote about for your RQA and your informative essay. Remember, this example is for my topic, which is about bicycle commuter safety. This slideshow is actually also in Google Classroom as well, so you can go back to the slideshow if you need to. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is go to Google. When I get to Google, I'm going to type some keywords into my search bar. I'm going to type bicycle commuter deaths and names. That's what I'm looking for. I want to know someone who was drastically affected by my topic, bicycle commuting. All right, here are my results, right? I have a whole bunch of stuff. I can sort of skim through the descriptions there. And look at this one. This says that someone dies, right? Okay, so I'm going to click on that and I'm going to read what it says. When I click on it, this is what the article says. Earlier this month, the cycling community witnessed another bike crash-related tragedy, the first reported bike share fatality in the United States. On the morning of July 1st, the Chicago Tribune reports 25-year-old Virginia Murray was riding a Chicago area Divvy bike share bicycle when the driver of a flatbed truck crashed into her, resulting in critical injury. She passed away later that day. While some may see this as a reason to be leery of riding in cities or using bike shares, that would be insult to injury. All right, look, in this particular article, I have found the name of someone who is affected by bicycle commuter safety. Great, I have her name. But this particular article doesn't give me very many details. I know she's 25, and I could write that on my sheet where it says details. I know that she was riding a bike share bicycle. I could write that on details on my sheet. I know that it was a flatbed truck that crashed into her, and I could write that on my sheet. But I want even more details than that, because if I'm going to tell this story, I want as many details as possible. How do I find more details? I go back to Google. In Google, I can use some different search words. Now that I have her name, I can type that into my search engine, Virginia Murray bike death, and let's see what I can find. All of these articles pop up about her death, and each one is probably going to have just a few more details than the one before. So I'm going to pick one. I'm going to pick this one, and I'm going to read it. All right? We can read it here, right? A Divvy bike rider has died after she was hit by a truck in Avondale on Chicago's northwest side Friday morning. It's believed to be the first bike sharing death in the United States. Virginia Murray, 25, was struck near the corner of Belmont and Sacramento just after 9 a.m., authorities said. There are no bike lanes at the busy intersection. In surveillance video, a large flatbed truck can be seen pulling up to the light at the intersection. After sitting for several seconds, Murray rides up on the right. At the moment she flanks the right side of the truck, the driver turns that direction, hitting her. There's been so many accidents at this intersection with or without the crossing guards, said Angela Edwards, who lives nearby. There are no marked bike lanes in the vicinity of the crash. The driver from a nearby flooring company immediately jumped out of the truck. Baffled bystanders rushed over to help her as she lay motionless in the middle of the street. Police said she was wearing a helmet at the time of the crash. Witnesses said rescuers performed CPR on her at the scene. So this one has a lot more details than the last one had, and I can write a whole bunch of these details down on my sheet. So my goal is to read as many pieces as I can about one particular person, so I can get as many details as I possibly can about what happened, about how this person was affected by this issue. This is what your handout looks like. Okay, so on your handout, you're going to write the name of the individual affected by the issue, and you're going to list as many details as you can possibly find. So these are all of the details that I was able to find, not only in those 2 articles that we just looked at, but also by reading several more articles about her and about the crash. And out of that, I got all of these details, which will be really great when I go to write my story. All right, so that is what you are doing today. You have all of today to get as many details as possible, and then tomorrow we will spend time, or block day, we will spend time actually sort of consolidating those details into a micro fiction story. So again, you're using your Chromebooks. You're going to conduct research on an individual who's been affected by the issue you've been writing about this quarter. And then you're going to use the space on your handout to identify the name of the person and as many details as you can find about their story. All right, if you have any questions, I will be around during lunch, but I will be in room B213 today instead of my own room. And again, this slideshow is in Google Classroom, so you can go back to it and reference it if you need to.